This evening, I'd also like to thank our panelists, who I'm going to ask to join us here in just a few minutes. We really do have an esteemed group presenting and taking part in this discussion this evening. I'd also like to thank everyone that has submitted questions for the panel and for consideration. It really was a worldwide response, so we put the call for questions out amongst the Angelman community, to family members of individuals with Angelman syndrome, to researchers, people that represented industry, other ethicists as well. And we got a tremendous response. I think the difficult part was really weeding down not only the number of questions, but then making these questions really, really appropriate, not just for Angelman syndrome, but for rare disorders. So the topic of our discussion this evening is ethical considerations in rare disease research. And this really does open the dialogue and begin the discussion around the complexities of rare disease research. And what you will see this evening and what you'll hear this evening is many different perspectives from which rare disease research is approached. But we also know that there can be a disconnect between perhaps the people that are in this room, what families who are affected by rare disorders expect or want from the research community, from their clinicians, and we really wanted to start this discussion. So the discussion isn't just about Angelman syndrome, but it is about all rare disorders, and that's the context by which we're looking at this discussion this evening. So with that, I would like to introduce our two co-moderators for this evening, Dr. Charlie Williams and Miss Lee Sutherland. As many of you already know, Dr. Williams is from the University of Florida in Gainesville. He has a long, long history with the Angelman Syndrome Foundation and was really responsible for starting the foundation. And initially it started as a research foundation, but he had the vision to know and understand that families really needed the support that the foundation continues to provide for our families along with that research. And we have been incredibly blessed to have Dr. Williams with us for 20 years. So this is our 20th anniversary, and Dr. Williams has been with us throughout that whole time. So thank you, Dr. Williams. I'd also like to introduce Lee Sutherland. I've known Lee for probably 10 years now. Lee is the mother of Alex Battaglia. She's a 24-year-old woman with Angelman syndrome. And Lee has worked for NBC News in the Washington district for 35 years. She's worked as a director and a graphics producer, and she directed Meet the Press from 2000 to 2012. And it has been a privilege working with her. She has been working very, very hard on this panel and with our panelists. And Lee, I am going to turn this over to you and Charlie now, but please welcome our moderators for this evening.
Okay, so I will provide the introductions, and then Lee is going to explain some of the ground rules and how we'll proceed. Starting from left to right, we have Dr. Stormy Chamberlain. She is a molecular biologist and member of the University of Connecticut Stem Cell Institute. Her lab studies have focused on induced pluripotent stem cell models for Angelman syndrome and related conditions. Next, we have Dr. Ben Philpott, a neurobiologist in the Department of Cell and Molecular Physiology at the University of North Carolina. Next is Dr. Michelle Roth-Klein. She's one of two pediatric ethicists at the FDA. She runs a busy pediatric ethics consultation service that is available upon request to any division within the FDA. Next, Dr. Joe Horrigan is the head of medical research and an assistant vice president for Autism Speaks. Next, Dr. Dan Harvey is wearing two hats tonight. He's a parent of a 16-year-old with Angelman syndrome, and he is chief operating officer of DART Neuroscience, which is a private company formed to discover new technologies and therapeutics in the neurosciences. And finally, Dr. Wen Han is a physician clinical geneticist at Boston Children's Hospital. He is currently conducting a clinical research trial involving children with Angelman syndrome. This is a collaborative, nationwide project.